Let's unbox the Funko Pop vinyl figure of John from Skeleton Crew. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. I am really enjoying the Skeleton Crew live action series that's currently airing on Disney+. I was so looking forward to the series and it is not disappointing. I'm loving the characters, the adventures, so much fun stuff, and I'm really wanting to add some Skeleton Crew collectibles to my collection. Now, after last week's dramatic episode, don't worry, I won't go into spoilers, I'm really fascinated by the character of Jod. I really want to see where he ends up in the last coming episodes. So of course, I wanted to pick up this Funko Pop vinyl figure of Jod to add to my collection. I recently opened up the Hasbro Vintage Collection 3.75-inch version figure of this character. Really loved that one, so I'm hoping I will love this one just as much. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll get Jod out of the box so we can take a closer look at all of the details. But first, let's take one last look at the packaging. As a single figure, this Funko Pop vinyl of Jod comes in the iconic Funko packaging for a single figure. We have the Pop logo here at the top, we have the Star Wars logo in white, and we have a blue circle with a grey border for the number 698. For the Skeleton Crew series, we have a dark blue starry background for that top banner and down the side as well, with a bit of a gold yellow trim border to it there. We've got a nice preview there of the design of Jod, and we have that accent blue color for the nameplate. It's interesting, for other collectibles he has given his full name as Jod Nawood, but for the Funko figure he is simply named Jod. Nice and easy there. We've got a nice clear window. We can see, turning around to the side, we can see that window continuing, and we can see that we have that sort of top and bottom plastic casing holding him in place rather than the clamshell where we have plastic in front of him. So he is nice and clear from the front there, which is nice to see. Now of course, that side window, we have his name, simply Jod, his number, and a little bit of the preview of the face there, just like we do at the top as well. Now turning on to the side panel, one of my favorite panels of every Funko box here, we can see that dark blue starry background in behind the full-length figure pictured there of Jod, along with his number there, and we can see that yellow gold trim color coming in for the border here as well. Moving on to the back, we've got some really nice graphics here. Again, that blue starry background there, we have the large Star Wars logo again in white and the Skeleton Crew logo there as well. We have a preview image there of Jod wearing a really cool jacket, and we can see some of the other characters available in the first wave of Funko Pop vinyl figures from the Skeleton Crew series. We have Jod, Wim, Fern, KB, and Neil. I'm really hoping we won't have to wait too long to get more because Smee SM33 is missing from this lineup. I have already picked up one from Skeleton Crew. I picked up Neil before Jod, and it's not going to be too long before I'm going to be adding the rest of the crew to my collection. They look fantastic. So that is a really nice box design. So let's go ahead and open it up. As always, I'm going to open up my Funko packaging on the underside here. Just going to pull out that flap and let's pull out the clear tray. Here we go. Now taking a quick look at that insert card. Interestingly, it's a little bit plain. We just have that sort of gold, almost a mustard accent color. No emblems, logos, or detail there. Just a plain color. A little bit unusual for Star Wars Funko Pop vinyls. So now we have Jod in his clear plastic tray. Let's go ahead and remove him. Always a bit loud. Okay, so let's lift him out. So he's got quite an unusual outfit, doesn't he? We've got this large sort of headscarf wrapping sort of around his head there, and a really cool sort of pirate style jacket there. There are some fantastic details that I can already see. A lot of fabric textures and some really cool gold trim details. So let's quickly clear away the packaging so we can go over all of the details. One particular aspect about unboxing Funko Star Wars figures is I really appreciate the fine detail that Funko puts into their figures, especially since everything's so stylized. I wouldn't fault them for sort of simplifying things down. There are some really fantastic details here in terms of the gold trim, the texture on the sort of hood, the scarf that Jod is wearing here. There are some really cool details, but I have to say something caught my eye that I wasn't quite sure about. So I mentioned I recently recently opened up the Hasbro 3.75-inch figure from Hasbro's Vintage Collection line, and I have to say, I have him here on hand. The colors are very different. I think that's quite interesting, and I'm not too sure, to be honest, which one is more accurate. He is seen a lot in shadows, rather befitting for the character, but as you can see, the Hasbro action figure is quite a dark purple, sort of like a wine, a burgundy type color, whereas the Funko version is quite pale. It still has a very, very subtle sort of purple undertone, but it's reading almost like a caramel or a beige color. It's really quite interesting. And I don't think I've really come across quite a difference in two sort of Star Wars collectible figures of the same outfit released around the same time. You can see that they are both depicting Jod wearing his sort of very pirate style coat here with gold details and a head wrapping sort of scarf texture detail there. I think it's really interesting to see just how different they look. I haven't really come across that in recent years when comparing my Hasbro and Funko toys together, because generally speaking, if you're a fan of a character, you often like to build sort of a little bit of a focus display, a few different versions of the figure, and of course seeing them side by side, they're very different. So I'm going to have to go back and sort of analyze some of the shots where he is perhaps in a little bit more daylight to see which color is a little bit more accurate. Personally, I really like the dark rich tones of the jacket in the action figure, but I have to say I'm not sure which is truer to how he is seen on the show. So any excuse to watch more episodes or rewatch episodes of Skeleton Crew, I'm all for it. So as I saw from just through the window, there is some really cool gold details. So of course, I'm already talking about the jacket. I'm going to continue here. He's got a bit of quilting on the collar here, which we can see is accented in a slightly darker color. You can see just a little bit more of that purple color tone coming through there on the sort of the collar of his coat there. But he's got these really cool ornate gold details on his sleeve ends there. Really, really nice to see. And that gold paint actually goes all the way around to the underside of his sleeves, which is something I really like. We haven't sort of skimped on detail. We can see it on this side here as well. It goes all the way around that sleeve. Really nice. And he's also got some gold details here, some clasps to keep his sort of jacket closed there. We've got a little bit of gold on the sort of the top flaps on his pockets here on the coat as well. And of course, we've got this fine sort of fabric, sort of grain texture on that jacket there as well. You can sort of see that grain coming through there. And of course, very easy to see here in the back as well. I like the sort of swoosh there. And of course, we've got those seam lines included in the sculpting there as well. So something I think is quite interesting. So Jude Law, the actor who portrays Jod in Skeleton Crew, has a very distinctive face. He's quite well known, and he has a very distinctive hairline. So I think it's kind of interesting that they chose for this version of Jod being the very first Funko figure of the character. They did him with his scarf, the sort of hood on, which kind of really hides the distinctive likeness of Jude Law. I always am impressed with just how much of an actor or character likeness Funko manages to put in their figures, despite being very stylized with the same eyes, sort of similar nose and all of that kind of stuff. So we've just got this tiny little bit of hairline up here. So it's not as kind of true to the likeness, if you can say true to likeness about a Funko figure, but we don't have any sort of distinctive Jude Law features here. We've just got that tiny little bit of the hairline. But nevertheless, I do really like the sculpting and the element of it. He is a mysterious character. I like the fact that both versions of the figure from the Vintage Collection Hasbro figure and this Funko version have got him sort of shrouded. I like that kind of mysterious nature to him. He's all sort of covered up, hiding his identity. So we've got some really nice sculpting here on this hood, which is accented with a dark weathered wash, which really highlights that fabric grain sculpted there on this hood. Really, really nice. You can see in some places it's darker, it's kind of pooling in certain places and lighter in others. So it really gives it a sort of an interesting sort of weathered and mottled look. We can see that sort of really heavier patch coming in through here. I like it. It's just dirt would sort of accumulate in different areas, and I think that that's really nice. We've kind of got a little bit of sort of a frayed edge here in the back and around where the hood section is kind kind of folded back. Got a little bit of gathers there. I think it looks really fun. And then of course it's separate because the bobble head has to be separate, but we've kind of got that little bit of the scarf sort of hanging down here, like we saw on the action figure, where the hood is kind of all in one piece and it kind of falls down here to create a scarf on the figure. We can see that sort of replicated here, though of course they're not attached, but we still have that effect of the same color and the same sort of texture falling down the front there in front of his jacket. I think that that's really fun. So of course the rest of his costume is fairly simple. We've got some sort of slightly loose pants here and some brown boots here with some sort of wrapping and straps around it. I like the pose. He's holding a blaster. We've got some nice detail here on this black and silver blaster. It's painted quite nicely, and he's wearing gloves, brown gloves here. We've got some sort of knuckle stitching detail there, and I like the fact that he's actually got his other hand in a sort of a closed fist. He looks ready for action. I quite like that. He's sort of got a wider battle stance going on here. Just a really good pose. You know, we've come a long way since those original sort of Funko figures where they all had that weird sort of wide-legged stance and their arms always in the same pose down the side. I really like the poses that Funko sculpts for their characters. Very sort of true to it. I'm just really liking all of this weathering on this hood and just that really fine detail. I hope it's actually showing up well, because sometimes it's hard to show tiny detail up close, but the gold on this, the accent painting on that is just absolutely really, really nice. Such a small detail. Again, there's a lot of scenes in Skeleton Crew that are kind of dark, mysterious. It's really nice to see the small costume detail being so sort of clear and well painted on a figure like this. Just really nice. I am quite particular about the painting detail on my Star Wars collectibles. Now, Jod is actually proving to be quite popular here in New Zealand. I did have to hunt around a little bit to find this one. That's kind of why I grabbed him when I did, because I hadn't seen him in a while, and I realized that he is actually being sold. He's getting harder to find, so I grabbed the first one that I found. So I didn't get the chance to really sort of compare painting details like I usually do, sort of side by side with a few figures, but I have to say there is really nothing wrong with this one. If I have to point out one small detail, it's where sort of the weathering wash has just nipped over this edge of the hood and kind of just touched on his skin hairline there. So very minimal. But apart from that, really nice. I don't like it when the flesh tone kind of overlaps onto sort of fabric, or supposed to be fabric details. We've got a nice clear line around the face, no sort of massive marks, smudges, or any sort of interruptions with the paint job on the face. That always bothers me because it's such a nice clear section of the figure. I like that. And I like the fact that the weathering on the hood is quite mottled. We've got heavier patches, lighter patches. That feels realistic. I like it. It's just sort of catching and highlighting the texture of that sculpting really nicely. And of course, I'm just really blown away with it by the jacket. Of course, Skeleton Crew on the whole has some strong pirate vibes. You know, a lot of the characters refer to themselves as pirates, so I really like the sort of the pirate theme of the design coming through on his jacket here, which is just really nice. It's sort of, you know, with the scarf and these gold details, just really fun. Now, I'm really hoping that we do get more Skeleton Crew Funko Pop vinyl figures soon. There are some characters I feel are missing, so I'm hoping we don't have to wait too long. Like Andor, I'm still waiting for major characters from the first season of Andor to come out in the Funko Pop vinyl range, perhaps for Andor season 2 coming up in a few months. But Skeleton Crew is just, I'm having so much fun with it. And it's one of those shows where I'm just impatient, really, to get more collectibles from the show on my shelves. I'm really enjoying the characters, and we've still got a few episodes to go. I'm just having so much fun. It really is an adventure. So of course I have Jod here, and as I mentioned, I already have Neil. So here's a quick little comparison of the two. So of course Funko are not really to scale with each other. Of course Neil is a lot shorter than Jod, but here they are pretty much the same height here. And I think it's fun, now that I've seen more of the show, I can see that Neil is wearing his school jacket. I think that that's quite fun. He has a distinctive sort of overalls that he's wearing for most of the episodes. So again, I'm hoping that perhaps we will get another Neil Funko figure in his different outfit, and I'm sure we'll get another one of Jod because he has a few different looks, a few different accessories. I think it'll be really fun. I'm just enjoying this show, and of course, now that I have these two, of course, I have to go out and hunt down the rest of the Skeleton Crew gang. I need Fern, Wim, and KB to round out this first wave of Funko figures, and fingers crossed we'll get some more very soon. I need SM33. He is such a fun character. I need him, and I just don't have him in any form, not Hasbro or Lego or anything like that. So I'm having so much fun, and I'm so happy to have these two on my display shelf. They look adorable together. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible, checked out the details, and had a lot of fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko Pop Vinyl fan, I recently unboxed the Neil figure from Skeleton Crew. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.